Hey, everybody, it's Susan Lindner. I'm back, your host of the Innovation Storytellers Show. I'm super excited today to be talking about all of the ways that we're looking at how innovation makes its way into the marketplace. If it's coming from government, if it's coming from military, if it's coming from brilliant brains around the world, even in the private sector who are bringing, and nonprofit sector that are bringing brilliant ideas into the marketplace. We want to talk about how they get there, how they're impacting us, and how they are shaping our world. And that's why I'm really excited to have Jeremy Suard with me today. He brings nearly a decade of experience in signal processing and artificial intelligence from his time with one of Israel's elite army intelligence units. And that's all we can tell you. Otherwise, we'd have to kill you. So during his service, Jeremy was awarded the 3 highest Israeli Defense Force honors for technology and leadership excellence, making him the most decorated technology major in the Israeli army. Think about that, considering all of the different technologies that have come from the Israeli army. He graduated cum laude with a bachelor's in science and physics from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, one of my all-time favorite places on the planet. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Susan. I'm really glad to be here and excited for the interview.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. So, I ask all of my guests, how did you get here? How did you get to this place, considering none of us decided we were going to major in innovation per se in college, right? So how did you get to this point, Jeremy?
Well, I'm an extreme person and I'm a nerd. So I thought to myself, what's the extreme sports for nerds? And I believe it's a startup. So I had to do it.
That's great. What a great metaphor. Yes. And so
Yeah, so
you decided to just jump right in. When did you first get the bug? Did you start selling something as a little kid, getting into entrepreneurship, or were you making your own computers in your bedroom, or what?
yeah, I was always doing stuff, mainly leading like cool projects that involve technology along my career as a kid in high school, in university. I think I really found my place in the army because it's an area where you can do so much and you have a lot of means and budget and amazing teams and crazy projects. So I think that's where I got the feel for a startup. Army intelligence, where I served, also is very startup minded, how it works. And then I knew
What does
6 years
mean
before I quit
exactly?
the army.
Can I just interrupt you for a sec? So when you say it's startup minded, does that mean, what is that culture like? Because I have to say, I think most Americans would have a perception of the army being regimented, focused, think inside the box, not outside the box, keep order, keep status quo. But you're describing something very different. What do you mean by the intelligence division is very entrepreneurial?
Yeah, so in Israel at least, and it's not like that in all the armies in the world, but army intelligence is considered the most innovative place in the army. And
Interesting.
it's pretty simple. The 0.001% top kids of the country are in those units. They fight, they compete to get accepted. So you have this amazing talent of people who want to achieve, who are really good. They don't need any discipline. They're goal oriented. They know what they want to do. They know what they want to achieve. And then the way the Army Intelligence operates is that they give huge positions and responsibility to those kids with a lot of budget, a lot of teams, and they give you crazy missions to achieve, which are probably impossible to achieve. And then all you do in your service is you try to achieve almost impossible things at any cost, at any means. And ranks are not important. Actually, where I serve, we were no uniforms because it's a culture thing. It's ranks are not important. And you get used to try crazy things with the best people, which is exactly what a startup does. And always questioning everything and retrying. And it's okay to fail, but it's not okay not to try. It's okay to fail, but it's not okay not to do your best. Like my competitors used to say, is basically they have to know that you are the best and that you're trying your best. And then if you succeeded or failed, doesn't really matter, because if you failed, it was impossible to achieve if you have the right team. And so that's really the mindset. And I
Wow.
think when we finished the army and we're out there, we're like, okay, what's the next huge challenge? Almost impossible. We want to do it. And we have all our friends from those units who are the best tech talent ever in one place. And so when we come as a startup, it's not only us, it's the people we bring with us, which are the best R&D people in the world combined in a single place.
Fascinating. It sounds like an intellectual nerd's playground, unlimited budgets, huge problems. I mean, that's like the seventh grader's first try at the Rubik's Cube, right? And then it just gets
Yeah,
exponentially harder from there. So,
over and over again. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know, since you're part of the intelligence unit, I don't know if that's the Mossad or what we're calling it in this moment, or maybe you can't tell me, and that's okay too. But can you give us an example of the kind of problem that we're talking about, or is that just life threatening?
No, yeah, unfortunately, I can't share, but I would say that it's the intelligence community is involved in everything that's either considered technologically impossible, a little bit like in the US, I would say it's more like DARPA,
Mm,
or strategic missions that have an influence on national security, whether it's attack or defense. So it's usually at the core of what the army is doing right now, and it usually involves really hard technological missions. So you can read a lot in the newspapers about what the intelligence community in Israel does. Some of the operations are on the news, but it's crazy stuff. It's like James Bond, and we were Q in James Bond.
oh my God, I love that. Q, my all time, I'm a Bond fanatic, and Q is like my favorite for sure. But so then tell us how you got to this point. So lots of decision opportunities, right? Coming out of the army. How did you decide to start the business
So
and
I
this
knew we were
business?
going to do a startup, and I knew with who. The co-founders and also all the first VPs and management that we brought to the company. We knew we were going to do something together. The question was what? So it's a phase called ideation where we spent half a year in the garage trying to pick the right idea. We knew we would do something in imaging because we're really strong in signal processing and artificial intelligence and software, which is a nice combo. And so the medical world and the underground world are kind of the two main areas of research because it's areas where a camera doesn't work. And you need sensors to actually see what's going on inside the human body or underneath the ground. We ended up picking an idea in the construction area for the underground, which I'm really happy we did. But this was the process to get to it. And then once we had the first idea, we built a deck, we chose the first market, the first product, which is utility mapping for the underground. And then we went and raised money. And so we raised before we had anything, just on a concept, and the best team ever to deliver on that idea.
And how did you come up with this name, Exodigo?
It's random and doesn't mean anything, unfortunately. It was chosen before we knew what we were going to do, but it sounds cool.
I couldn't agree with you more. And if you give a marketing person enough time, they'll assign a meaning to it. So,
I'm sure of it.
I'm sure there's a deciphering the codigo, excavating the code ego.
There's a lot of things we can put on it. Yeah.
There you go. So, what was the story you started to tell venture capitalists? I mean, this idea of we all want to know what lies beneath, right? Whether what lies inside of our bodies or what's underground. And anyone who's tried to dig a hole in their backyard has probably uncovered something that they weren't anticipating.
Yeah.
But what was the pitch like? Because it seems relatively straightforward. Okay, underground mapping. Hasn't someone done that already? Is the question.
That's the thing. There's lots of technology, a lot of
Mhm.
technologies out there. They're not good enough. And so our main competitor is a tractor or a drilling machine. But
And
it's really the combo. It's the combo. Yeah, yeah. And so we see ourselves competing against excavation, which is today the best camera to see underground.
okay. And so how did you persuade them otherwise?
Well, I show them what we would build, which the
Uh-huh.
concept is easy. And I will take the analogy from the medical world. You have the CT scan, the ultrasound, the MRI, and the X-ray. 4 devices with 4 different sensors that work completely different from one another, different physics. Every one of them can see something inside your body and build some sort of picture of your body. But it's 4 devices, 4 softwares, 4 doctors, and 4 images in the end. It's the same with the underground. If you look at oil and gas, mining, geophysics for construction, there's all those devices built by different companies. And the easy question is, why not one device with all of it inside? Why hasn't anyone done it yet? And the answer is because it's very hard, and it's mainly very hard from a software perspective, which is not intuitive. But combining all the devices together is hard because it's different companies. If you think of it, the company that builds the MRI doesn't know how to build a CT scan, but it's possible. So we also do that. We physically combine them. But then how do you handle all that data? It's too much data. It's impossible for a human being to process. And so I believe it was impossible to do before AI came in, because you need help going through all that data. And so that's what I believe. And I believe it's true. And that's the main reason why we think no one did it before.
Yeah. And so, this story of really leveraging AI, I mean, we've had a lot of guests talking about artificial intelligence, but the quantity of data necessary to map the underground, right? I mean, it's like understanding the bottom of the ocean, except you're really looking for something that probably requires a relatively quick turnaround. There are commercial interests on all sides. This isn't for academia per se, right? This
Yeah.
is really to move projects forward faster. And so what role does the AI play in giving you those giant swaths of data? Or is it not about the quantity? It's about how to leverage it,
It's about how to process it.
how to process.
Basically, the reason no one measures with so many sensors is because it's impossible to process that afterwards. It's too much work back at home. It's impossible to keep up with the pace, and you miss details. If you have so much data to go through, a human being is going to get tired, is going to miss some lines or some properties. And so AI is actually boosting the quality, and it's a must, and it's always improving. It's learning from site to site. It's basically, you can remove the brain from the field and bring it back home with AI. And it's a very important thing to do. So I believe that in our case, AI is the main enabler. We see it as our core IP. And it's basically, can you handle that much data collection and still process all of it all the time at a high quality, repetitive, to have an outcome that's always good and with the same quality? If we have 1,000 teams that scan in the field or one, it's going to be the same quality. You need AI to do that.
It's fascinating because, I mean, you're really hitting this at a time when AI, right, thanks to ChatGPT, has come to a public consciousness in a way that many of us have been talking about AI for a decade, right? It's really kind of come to the fore where most VCs are now saying, like, although they'll invest in it, are still going, ugh, I can't hear one more pitch about AI. Right? I'm going to put a bullet in my head if I have to hear about AI one more time. But it really is the game changer. I recall 15 years ago reading in Forbes magazine, right? Cutting edge business journalism, certainly. And I'm talking about the X factor for a young lawn care company was the ability to use Google Earth and Google Maps to identify the size of someone's backyard, and then to calculate, the size of the backyard from Google Earth, and then be able to process an estimate within an hour or two, as opposed to sending two guys with tape measures out to your backyard and calculating how much it was going to cost to cut the grass. Now we're talking about AI being able to do this really sight unseen underground. So how do you collect the data?
Yeah, so maybe even before I talk about the data collection, I think that within AI, we are a branch of AI that's way behind the rest of the AI. Because if you think of it, until ChatGPT, computer vision and NLP was very strong.
Sure.
Text to speech or speech to text and computer vision. That were the only AIs that worked pretty well. And now you have generative AI, which is very good at creating images, creating text. But our field of AI is called signal processing AI, specifically low amplitude signals, very noisy. And this is an area that has not been breached yet. And we see ourselves at the forefront of that type of AI, which is highly noisy signals and using AI in signal processing. And we believe that in that end, we are at the forefront, and it's a new field of AI that hasn't caught up yet. And once it does, it revolutionizes the product that you're building, like in our case for the underground. But it's something that I haven't seen in other areas as well. Even in the medical world, the AI is still pretty basic, still works on images, and nobody has really cracked how to do AI on signals. And we do it. So it's a different type of AI, but I feel that we're really at the forefront of it. And I feel that we invented this category in the Army, signal processing AI. And now we're leveraging that for a startup.
And what was it used for in the Army as a point of comparison?
Anything, there's so many signals out there, anything you can think of, from sound, radars, anything. As soon as your signal is too weak to be detected easily, even by a human being, AI becomes order of magnitude more complicated. And we had to deal with those situations a lot, with different types of signals, different sensors in the army. That's where we were good. We became good at working with a lot of different sensors from different types. And also we learned how to put AI there.
So what are some of the obstacles in developing this technology? What were some of the roadblocks that you've run into?
It's a billion of roadblocks. It's very hard, and we're not done yet, but we have a hardware team that are assembling the sensors together. It's very hard. And then we have a software team that does the data acquisition software so that it's very easy to collect the data in the field and anyone can do it. This is very hard, like making it almost dump proof. And then we have huge softwares that need to handle all that data in the cloud, back at home, and then all the architecture of the algorithms in the AI. Everything there is very hard and keeps being hard. And so I would say there's no one major breakthrough we're doing. It's more like a billion of small ones in a lot of different disciplines.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious about how you attract more people to join your startup. What do you say to them that says, let me help you get on board with one of the most interesting signal processing AI technology companies in the world? Is that what's going to be the magnet for this group?
That's one, is, do you want to work on one of the hardest things that is potentially possible within the AI world of algorithmics? I think it's very interesting algorithms, and everything is very hard, and that's what attracts people. And the other thing I think is, do you want to be part of a company that actually makes a dent to the world, and is not just another cyber or cloud infrastructure or IoT startup? And that makes a difference. People want to work in a company that has a real impact, that it's playing in the real world. In our case, also, we think we have a very big impact on carbon footprint of construction projects because we accelerate them. There's like nothing lowers the carbon footprint of a transportation project more than accelerating the project and finishing it earlier. And people like the combination of those two. I think our culture is also, because we have so many disciplines in the company, it's a lot of small groups, although it's a big company. And so we're still very attractive to superstars who want to be the best and lead a new field. And there's all those new areas in the company, more than other companies. In other company, you would have like one algo group, and then there's already the superstars, and then you start building their support. In our case, it's not like that yet. We're still building new areas, bringing new leaders, and that attracts superstars.
And why utility companies? Why are they so in need of this kind of technology?
Because they want to build fast and on budget. And there's unexpected utilities discovered in construction is the number 3 reason for main project delays and budget overruns.
Undiscovered construction, is that what you said?
Unexpected utilities that are discovered during construction. It's too late. Because if you think of it, apart from the safety problems, which you can hit it and die, if you have to move it out of the way, this takes time. Usually the contractor is not liable for the delay that this causes. So you have 3 weeks. If it's a big project, it's a contractor with 300 people in the field, not working. Who pays for that? The owner. Always the owner. And then that's one line. What if it keeps adding? Then you can get huge delays. So if you look at major transportation projects or complex energy projects, politics and bureaucracy are always the number 1 reasons for huge delays. But unexpected underground issues is number 3. And it's such a big problem, but it's on the table of the CEOs of the C-suite of the companies, whether it's utility or transportation. We sell to very high-ranking people in the organization. It's interesting for them. And they've had their own war stories about projects that the budget went completely through the roof and the project got delayed by years because of utilities. There's enough stories like that.
Fascinating. Well, Jeremy, this has been a great conversation, but it's now my time to put you on the hot seat. So I want to ask you
for it. I hope so.
So if you had, well, let me ask you this. What do you think is the number 1 innovation of all time? all of human history, what do you think it is?
Newton's laws.
Newton's laws, all of them. We're not just talking gravity here.
No, the first bunch he invented. I think it was the first major breakthrough. Yeah.
And do you like that discovery around Newton's laws? Is it part of the conversation at work?
Not really.
Uh-huh.
Conversation at work is at 11 a.m. What do we order for food? No, I'm kidding.
Love it. Okay. I think that would be like an amazing, Newton's Tuesdays, and figure out, what some of these laws, how their applications are actually working in the
And
office.
how did he get that? How did he think about it? Yeah, that's what I don't get. Yeah.
Must have been something in that apple. I'm not sure. But okay. Question number 2 is, if you had the opportunity to join any innovation team in human history, which team would you join?
I think the Manhattan Project, the atomic bomb.
Ooh, controversial. Why did you choose that one?
Very controversial, because I think that nuclear energy, like, okay, don't use it to bomb people, but is probably the cleaner energy and the one that's going to save the planet. And it's been so unpopular because it's not safe. But I think it's going to be ultimately very important. And I think that this project was one of the major pushes and breakthrough in that area.
Yeah, I think that guy, Billy Gates, he really likes this one too.
Yeah, and it's just unpopular because of everything that happened, the Chernobyl and the bombs. The nuclear energy, I'm sure, is a big part of our future.
We just need another Israeli startup to figure out how to store waste. Maybe Elon Musk will take it with him to Mars. But oh my gosh, imagine with that payload exploding, probably not a good idea.
Not a
But
good idea at all.
not yet. Not yet. We're not there yet. And my last question is, what is something that really pisses you off, or something that you absolutely positively wish that would exist in the world? Right? Something that would solve a problem that pisses you off, or something amazing that you could bring into the world if you could invent that thing.
I hate traffic, and I wish someone will invent something that solves traffic one day.
Wait a minute, you're an impatient Israeli? I've never heard of one of those before. That's shocking. Shocking. Fantastic. There are a lot of AI startups that are working on that very challenge, a couple of whom I mentor in this space. So from your
Yeah, I
lips.
agree. But I think, by the way, I think, and that's my philosophy for our company too, is that if you really want to make a dent to the world, you can't just be a software company. You have to solve an entire piece of the puzzle, not just give new tools to the status quo. So you can start small. In our case, it's very small, as we take only the underground maps from big projects, but we do everything there. There's no way someone has to do anything else after our map as a philosophy. And I think like big problem is the same. If you build a software to solve traffic, it's not enough. You need to do something from scratch. I think it involves a lot of hardware. I don't know like how to solve traffic, but I think that those types of problems are going to be solved only when someone tries to replace completely the ecosystem.
Well, let's hope it comes sooner than later. Right. And it's also
Yeah.
something to aspire for among startups. We're not just building apps here, people. We're trying to change the planet. So get on it.
I agree. And it's way more exciting. And now venture capitalists are open to that and fund that. All the carbon footprint, all the carbon capture startups, our startups. I think it's a new era for startups, and I think it's very exciting. And it's more complex, but roadmaps to solve. Yeah.
So, Jeremy, where can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about your technology?
If you have a project that you think is going to be complex because of underground, you're welcome to log into our website, exodigo.com or exodigo.ai, and press the contact us button. This will reach out to our business team, and we'll be happy to solve your underground problems and expedite your project.
Fantastic. Jeremy Suard, thank you so much for joining me on the Innovation Storyteller Show today.
Thank you so much, Susan. It was a pleasure.